Before I formally start the meeting, I will go to each subcommittee member to confirm that they can hear and be heard. This is a legal requirement for me to do so under the local authorities and police and crime panels coronavirus flexibility of local authority and police and crime panel meetings, England and Wales regulations of 2020. So if you could verbally confirm that you are able to hear me, and I will confirm in response that I can hear you. Where practicable, please also have your video switched on so that you can be seen by other members in attendance and the public watching on the Council's YouTube stream. Councillor Polly Andrews.
I could hear you and see you, Chairman.
And I you. Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Paul Andrews.
Morning, Chair. I can see and hear you clearly.
And I see and hear you, Councillor Andrews. Thank you very much. Councillor Tony Fagan.
Morning, Councillor Selden. I can see and hear you.
And I you, Councillor Fagan. Good morning. I'd also like to request that officers who will be presented through the meeting can also confirm that they can hear and be heard. We have Ellen Bahari, a trainee solicitor.
She's just joining, Chair.
Just joining us. I'll come back to her. Emma Burwell from the Licensing Authority.
I can hear and see you, Chair.
And are you, Emma? Thank you. Caroline Marshall, Clerk to the Subcommittee.
I can see and hear you, Chair.
And are you, Caroline? Thank you. Alice McAlpine, the Legal Advisor to the Committee.
I can see and hear you, Chair.
And are you, Alice? And Jen Priest of our Technical Support Team.
I can see and hear you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. And are you? Eleanor, you've just joined us. Can I confirm that you can see and hear us?
I can see and hear you, Chair. Thank you.
And are you? I would like to welcome everybody to today's meeting. The Council is video and audio streaming this meeting live on the internet and making an official recording. The recording forms a part of the official public record of the meeting and will be available on the Council's website. Please note that while it is only a legal requirement that you have your audio switched on, it is the Council's preference that, where you are able to do so, that you also have your video switched on. Please remember that what you say and do in this meeting has a global reach and your words and actions should be chosen carefully. Can I also remind members to ensure they are wearing their headsets while listening and speaking during the meeting? This will ensure that the audio quality is of the highest possible quality and the background noise is significantly reduced. As these are extraordinary circumstances, there are some additional points for members and officers to be aware of. As a part of our meeting etiquette, and in line with our normal committee practices, all microphones apart from mine will be placed on mute at the start and during the meeting. I will then run through the agenda in the customary way. When you wish to speak, please use the hand button against your name in the participants list, which should be on the right of your screens. I will then invite you to speak in order of the hands being raised. Please remember to unmute yourself to speak and mute yourself when you have finished. And when this is all over, we will have great fun saying to each other, mute or unmute when we're in live meetings. Please do not raise your physical hand, as I do not wish to miss anyone who may wish to speak. Please note that the chat facility has been switched off to ensure that members' contributions can be offered through the spoken voice and through the public record. Please ensure that all mobile devices are switched off. And I've just to prevent interference with the audio and video system. If any attendee loses connection, the meeting will be paused to ascertain if the connection can be restored quickly. If it is not possible to recover the connection within a reasonable amount of time, the meeting will continue as long as a quorum of committee members remains able to hear and see the proceedings. If you plan to leave before the end of the meeting, please can you indicate this in advance. Where committee members are required to vote on an item, I will ask each committee member in turn to indicate verbally if they are for, against, or abstaining. The results of the roll call will only be recorded in the minutes of the meeting where there is a requirement to record the named vote. If a committee member has not been present for the whole of the discussion during an item due to technical failure, they should not vote on that item. Are there any questions about the procedures before we continue? No? Good. Thank you. I will now formally open the meeting and go to the agenda items. Item 1 on the agenda are apologies for absence.
There are no apologies for absence, Chair.
Thank you, Caroline. Therefore, there are no named substitutes. Item 3 is the declarations of interest. Are there any Schedule 1, Schedule 2 or other interests to be declared for items on the agenda today? Could you please do this by raising your virtual hand, and I will then ask you to speak to notify the meeting which item you have an interest in and the nature of that interest. Are there any declarations from members? I see none. Thank you for that. So I'm now skipping to item 7 on my agenda, but I think we've had some issues with agenda numbering on the electronic format. Item 7, it says that application for a variation of a premises license in respect of McDonald's Restaurant, Belmont Road, Hereford, HR 27HB under the Licensing Act 2003. This is to consider an application for a variation of a premises license in respect of the McDonald's at the address I have just said. The meeting takes the form of a discussion, and we have an order of speakers for making presentations to the committee. The orders will go such as this. We'll first have Emma Bowell on behalf of the Licensing Authority, PC Chris Lee on behalf of West Mercia Police, Sergeant Darren Ball of West Mercia Police, who I will allow to speak, even though there was a late indication. Councillor Kevin Tillett, who is the ward member who wishes to make representations on behalf of the public. Do we have Caroline Layton this morning?
It doesn't appear that we do, Councillor Selden.
Okay, so we won't have Caroline, who was a member of the public. And then Sarah McLean on behalf of the applicant at McDonald's. There will then be questions from the subcommittee members.
Have we lost him?
No, I'm actually operating on another screen, and if you touch it, it suddenly scoops off to the end of the screen. So I have to find out where I was in my script again. So apologies to everybody and members of the public watching. So let's skip now to Emma, who is going to make the presentation on behalf of the Licensing Authority.
Thank you, Chair. As Chair previously discussed, this is consider an application for a variation of a premises licence in respect of McDonald's in Belmont Road, Hereford. The recommendation is that the subcommittee determine the application to a view to promote the licensing objectives in the overall interest of the local community. It should give weight to steps that are appropriate to promote those licensing objectives, the representations, including supporting information that's presented by all parties, the guidance issued to local authorities under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003 and the Herefordshire Council Statement of Licensing Policy 2015 to 2020. There are a number of options open to the subcommittee. One would be to modify the conditions of the licence. Another would be to reject the whole or part of the application. And for this purpose, the conditions of the licence are modified in any of them that is altered or admitted, or any new condition is added. The reasons for those recommendations are it ensures compliance with the Licensing Act 2003. The application for variation has received relevant representations and therefore is brought before the committee for determination. The details of the application are: the applicant is Sarah McLean. The variation was received on the 25th of August 2020 and the end of consultation is the 21st of September 2020. The application, which is at Appendix 1, requests a variation to the premise licence as follows: late night refreshment, indoors and outdoors, Monday to Sunday, 2300 to 0500. Any premises selling hot food or hot drink at any time between 11 PM and 5 AM must be licensed under the Licensing Act 2003. Late night refreshment also means the supply of hot food or hot drink to public for consumption on and off the premises between those hours. A premises does not need to be licensed under the Act to sell or supply hot food or hot drink outside these hours. The premises was first licensed in May 2018, and since being licensed, the authority has received one transfer application. The current licence, which can be found at Appendix 2, authorises the following: late night refreshment, Monday to Sunday, 2300 to 2400. One objection has been received from a responsible authority, which is West Mercia Police, and they have objected to the application in its entirety and can be found at Appendix 3. 4 members of the public have made representations, which the authority have deemed relevant, and at Appendix 4. A supporting letter was received from the premises licence holder when the application was submitted and can be found at Appendix 5. A visit was carried out to the premises by West Mercia Police following their objection in relation to the application and to discuss the ways forward, and that can be found at Appendix 6. Any decision may have an impact on the local community. The report has human rights implications for both the premises licence holder and the residents from the local neighbourhood. Any of the steps outlined in section 1 of this report may have financial implications for the licensee's business and livelihood, and or may have impact upon the day-to-day lives of the residents. Article 8I of the European Convention of Human Rights provides that everyone has the right to respect for his or her private and family life in his or her home, which includes business premises. There are no equalities implications arising from this report. There are unlikely to be any financial implications for the authority at this time. As relevant representations have been received, the subcommittee must determine the application under section 3.5.7c of the Herefordshire Council Constitution. The representations must relate to the licensing objectives, and the subcommittee must determine the likely effect of the grant of the premises licenses on the promotion of those licensing objectives. The licensing authority must have regard to the promotion of those 4 licensing objectives, namely the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm in exercising its functions under the Act. And further regard should be had to the statutory guidance under section 182 of the Act. The subcommittee should be aware of a number of stated cases which have appeared before the administrative court and are binding on the licensing authority, and your legal advisor can advise you further on those. Schedule 5 gives you a right of appeal, and all appeals must be made to the Magistrates' Court and must be made within 21 days beginning the day on which the appellant was notified by the authority of the decision appealed against. There is little risk associated with the decision at this time, as the legislation allows for that right of appeal. All responsible authorities and members of the public living within Herefordshire have been consulted. Appendices 1 to 6 can be found at the back of this report, and also since the report has been published, there have been supplements received from Councillor Tillett, who is a public representee, a letter that has been sent to the local residents from the applicant, and also further supplement from West Mercia Police. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Emma, and thanks for emphasising the licensing objectives. I'll now turn to I think it's PC Lee next. Yeah, PC Lee, please.
I can't unmute.
You're unmuted now. Now you're muted again.
Can you hear me, Chair?
Now we can hear you.
Excellent. Okay, good morning, Chair. Good morning, everybody. Okay, I'm the licensed officer for West Mercia Police for Herefordshire. So I'm aware that the premises is obviously licensed for late night refreshment. McDonald's is a restaurant located, I will give you background, apologies. It's located on the main artillery route in and out of Hereford. It is located south of the city in a general direction of Abergavenny. Its location is next to residential housing estates on all sides. Immediately to its left, when facing it, is a large hotel. A short distance away in Goodrich Grove, there is a local policing team office. This is not a police station. It's a work base for the local policing team, and it is not 24 hours. Their main core hours are 0800 hours to midnight. Sometimes there will be officers on duty to 0200 on a Friday and Saturday. The level of staffing means that there are many occasions when the building is not occupied. For a number of years, there's been a level of antisocial behaviour at or near the premises that has impacted on the quality of life of those who live nearby and to those who use the premises and customers, plus those who work at the premises. The majority of these issues have occurred during the hours which are not covered by the existing licensed premises, the existing license for late night refreshment, and therefore may or may not be considered as regards to issues concerning this objection. However, it is only right that you are, as a committee, made aware of all the matters or incidents that are called into the police that concern us. Chair, do you wish me to number all the incidents that have been recorded since 2013, or do you feel it's not relevant to number the incidents because it is in the papers submitted?
I think we've all studied the papers,
Okay.
Chris. I think the picture you paint is quite good. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Okay, thank you. Okay, the spectrum of incidents or issues concern a wide range of bad behaviour. These include youth antisocial behaviour, including assault, stone throwing, swearing, and being abusive, refusing to leave the premises, being aggressive, and causing minor damage to property. Issues additionally include excessive noise from cars and customers, vehicle-related antisocial behaviour, commonly known as boy races, such as car racing and revving of car engines. There have been a number of occasions reported of adult drunkenness at the premises, potentially drunk driving issues by those using the restaurant and the drive-through facility. There have also been reported adult domestic issues as well, and arguments and road safety issues by vehicles queuing up to enter the premises, i.e. queuing back up onto the main road. All this does impact on the effective management of the premises and importantly on the safety and well-being of the public. Over the years, there has been a history of the local policing team having contact with the managers and of the premises with the intention of highlighting concerns and assisting them to tackle the problems. That area clearly within the remit to the address. This has involved face-to-face meetings, regular patrols for the location, and where necessary, proportionate investigation where a crime has been reported. What has been identified is that there has on occasion been no consistency in the way the managers at the premises address incidents. It is understood that whilst there are senior managers, there are shift leaders, supervisors who appear to have no clear direction on how to deal with the matters. And they are not applying what is being directed to them by the police. Additionally, this is compounded by the lack of ability or experience of some staff members to tackle bad behaviour promptly at the time of it occurring through a clear exclusion or banning order procedure. There are occasions where a person is banned by one supervisor but allowed a short time later back by another. So in summary, the level of antisocial behaviour is high for the premises of this nature. There is a vast majority of incidents that are youth related. There is a high level of vehicle related antisocial behaviour. There are recorded incidents where staff have called on the police to deal with incidents. The majority of incidents have occurred late afternoon, early morning. There are a number of incidents that have occurred after 2300 hours when the premises is closed to customers. Now, I've told through the incidents, there are quite a few, and I'm acutely aware that a lot of the incidents that I mentioned in the papers will be before the hours where the licence would be effective from the 2300 hours. And I've located, I think it's 5 incidents after 2300 hours, and some of them actually after the hours when they're closed. So I recognise the fact that some of the information won't be relative to the licence. However, there are incidents that are quite late in the evening and would no doubt at time of reporting would have carried on after the time of 11 p.m. at night. So West Mercia Police do object to his application on a basis that it's 24 hours, 7 days a week. I can say that at this time I have spoken with the applicant, and I do recognise that the management previously is not the management that's applied for this application, and I recognise that. And having had that meeting with the local policing team as well, and I'll let Sergeant Ball perhaps expand on that, but I'm satisfied that if we were to agree to 0200 hours, I'd be satisfied with that in the first instance, with the reassurance given to me by the applicant. And that's my submission, Chair.
Thank you very much, PC Lee. Can I now turn to Sergeant Ball, and then if members have any questions for the West Mercia Police team, could you present them after Sergeant Ball's had his say? Sergeant Ball.
Yeah, good morning. I just wanted to put on record really that I've been in post here for about 12 months, and we've had no issues in relation to antisocial behaviour like we did with previous owners of McDonald's. The team here are quite keen, as well as I am, and I think Chris is as well, to show that we're willing to support the application in relation to 2 a.m. I did meet with the owner and the manager, and I think the area manager as well, with Chris and a couple of the SNT team here. And I'd like to put on record that we felt very reassured, confident, pleased in that with the new management that's come in, I don't think the issues that we had previously will raise their head with them. They got some good ideas there. There's certainly, I think they own a number of properties across the country, not just one or two. So they're fully aware of how the whole process works. And I believe similar steps that they're willing to put in place here, they have success across the other sites that they own. So I just wanted to make sure really that you had our view, being the local safer neighbourhood team, that we have no objections in relation to the 2 a.m. is what Chris has just mentioned. And that's it really. I just wanted to make sure, I just wanted to get it out there really, that you know, we've got no issues with it as far as what's been proposed.
Okay, thank you, Simon Moore. Just to be clear then for members, that West Mercia Police at this stage has no objections to a 2 a.m. closing.
I don't know. Chris, I don't know if you want to step in as licensing, but we certainly don't at this end.
Subject to some conditions being added regarding short-term notification for SIA door staff should the need arise, and maybe some other conditions to be discussed. We have got no objection to 2 a.m. in the first instance. This will give us an opportunity to review on an ongoing basis how that has impacted on the community and on the key objectives of crime and disorder, and obviously the other objectives as well. And that's where we sit at the moment. So yes, having met with the applicant and satisfied that this is not the same management team that we had in place previously, and the efforts that the applicant's prepared to engage with the community and work with us regarding matters around littering, antisocial behaviour, and there appears to be a good commitment for good open dialogue really between ourselves and the applicant, whilst listening to the community as well with their concerns.
Okay. Other members have any questions for the police team? Any members? No. Okay. Councillor Tillett, you're here to make representations on part of the residents of the area. Could you let us know your views, please?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. This really does come down to the setting of this restaurant and drive-through facility. It's not Rotherwas. It's not on the old market development. It is, as you've already heard, in the midst of an established residential area. In my ward alone, there are 40 to 50 households that are in the immediate vicinity. There are also neighbouring properties in 2 other wards. And the site is surrounded on 2 sides by very, very nearby buildings, residential buildings, separated only by a low fence and a row of trees. And there is a long ongoing history of noise and disturbance. You've already heard from PC Lee about this. I mean, the fact that the closing lines, the summary of the police report: a high level of antisocial behaviour for premises of this sort, and a high level of vehicular antisocial behaviour for premises of that sort. And that tallies entirely with what I hope you've read from residents directly, and from what I've been told as well. You know, the noise from vehicles and from customers, and indeed from the process, particularly of the drive-through, which passes immediately adjacent to so many properties. Some of these factors are outside of McDonald's control. The customers who drive round and then park in Beatty Avenue, as you will have read, and consume their food with music blaring and chatting to friends, McDonald's as such has no control over that. But by virtue of being open late at night and now potentially into the early morning, that will continue. McDonald's cannot control that. But you know, the story of the elderly couple who, after 30 years of living in Beatty Avenue, have had to move bedroom to ensure a decent night's sleep. And perhaps most telling of all, the one I will certainly remember, is from a resident in Gilbert Court. You know, in those flats, they haven't got the option of moving bedrooms. Their bedroom is where their bedroom is. And the fact that even when shut in her bathroom, she can hear the noise from McDonald's. Now, it's already 18 hours a day. Surely there is just a decent level of respite that the neighbourhood is entitled to. At the moment, they are only getting 6 hours break from this constant barrage of noise 7 days a week. Is it really so unreasonable to expect there to be 6 hours of peace and quiet to get some decent sleep in the quietest period of the night when most conventional households are at sleep? It really doesn't seem unreasonable. And for that reason, I have to say I'm very disappointed that the police are happy for it to stay open until 2. And without being facetious, please come and join me and explain to some of those residents why they are now going to be disturbed until now well into the early hours of the morning. The fact is, McDonald's can change management, and I'm very pleased by what PC Lee and Sergeant Ball have had to say about the current management. But the management can change, but the clients will still be the same clients. And if they choose to make noise, if they choose to shout from one to another in their cars, if they choose to drive around into the surrounding streets and sit and eat their food and strew their litter along the length of Belmont Road, there is nothing that McDonald's can do about that. But by virtue of being open, these things will continue. So all I'm asking on behalf of the many households which are so very nearby, please, just for 6 hours a night, can we not have a bit of peace and quiet and a chance of getting a good night's sleep? It is a human rights issue, as Emma quite rightly mentioned, and we have to give due regard to the effect of this licence on neighbouring properties. So I would hope that the committee will reject this in its entirety. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Tillett. Are there any questions from the committee for Councillor Tillett and his representations on behalf of the residents? No. Councillor Polly Andrews, you were first.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillor Tillett, is one of the main problems then the drive-through with car doors slamming, and if the people coming out of the restaurants getting into their cars and driving off?
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. It's a mixture of things. Clearly, certainly things like people who, as I say, are driving around into Beatty Avenue and then sitting there eating their food and dumping their litter are more likely to have come from the drive-through. And certainly, for instance, the lady who was in her bathroom says she can hear the noise of the ordering speakers as people are actually giving their order, both in terms of people shouting out through their windows and then the noise from the McDonald's staff through the speakers. So in a sense, it's everything. I think in terms of vehicles, certainly, clearly the drive-through element, which is so very close to the boundary, that's where perhaps vehicular noise is the biggest problem. But I'm afraid people are people, and particularly late at night, just seem to be that bit louder, whether they're eating in and just leaving or using the drive-through.
Councillor Fagan, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering that the police were reporting that in the past year there had been no incidents of antisocial behaviour. I think that was the comment. And I just wondered if Councillor Tillett had any reflection from residents since the change of management as to an improvement. Have the residents noted an improvement over this time?
Nobody has suggested to me that things are any different. You know, they don't sit there and diarise it, obviously, or quantify it, but all the existing problems are existing, and although I don't think the report quantifies how many complaints there were directly from members of the public, certainly I'm afraid there is a degree of resident fatigue, shall we call it, in terms of, well, nothing has been done about the noise and the problems at McDonald's from a resident's perspective, and there is a sort of resigned defeat. As I say, the fact that this one couple, as I say, said, we've given up really, we've just moved our bedroom because it just doesn't get any better. And certainly when I've spoken to residents, you know, it's been well, last week this happened, or you should have heard the noise last night. So they are not conscious. I'm not saying that possibly changes haven't been put in place, but in terms of the neighbourhood, it just is business as usual, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Councillor Tillett. Are there any further questions? Okay, let's hear from Sarah McLean, who's speaking on behalf of the applicant. Sarah.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. If I may, if I could refer to my notes, if for no other reason, to give you the most amount of information in the shortest possible time and to help keep me on track. So why am I doing this? Primarily, it's for the sustainability of the business. The 9-week closure from March until June has had, you know, a very significant impact on my business overall. And even now, all but one of my 12 24-hour restaurants are trading limited hours and limited menu. So as far as the McDonald's business and my business is concerned, we are still in crisis, and my town centre restaurants are only trading until 10 p.m. The second reason is I still at this point, I employ nearly 2,200 people across the 21 restaurants, and I still have 100 people on furlough that, because of the overnight business not being as it is, I haven't been able to bring them out of furlough yet. So I am looking at ways to be able to help the business go forward and achieve that aim. Now, the Hereford drive-through employs 100 staff currently, and if the situation had been normal, I would probably be employing close to 150 people now. So whilst I am not a local business person in the true sense of the word, and that I don't live in Hereford, I do employ 100 local residents. And, you know, there can't be many people who are unaware now of the devastating impact that the epidemic has had on the hospitality industry in particular, and it may well get worse. You know, we just don't know at the moment. So the application was for 24/7 as I presented it, but after further engagement with the police, I would be more than happy if you would consider trading until 2 a.m. So I do support that change if you would consider that. And just a little bit about what's happened differently at Hereford since I took over, so that you get a little bit of a sense of my values. As far as McDonald's is concerned, I'm classed as a leading edge franchisee. So that means it's about how my restaurants operate, my standards, and I am the person, you know, I'm one of the franchisees that McDonald's will grow with in the future. I have one of the biggest organisations in the UK. And what that really means as far as you're concerned is I go above and beyond what is normal in trying to do the right thing. And if any of you are customers, you may have noticed that there have been significant changes at that restaurant in the past year. So 2 of the senior managers are completely different. Tyrese, who is the business manager there, he is one of my best managers in the organisation. So there is a completely different way in which that business operates compared to how it did 12 months ago when I bought it. I have been through this process many times before in numerous locations. All of the 10 restaurants where I've applied to vary the license over years have all been successful. There isn't one authority that's had to come back to me and say, we want to withdraw the license or we want to add further conditions because I haven't been able to fulfill my obligations. At Walsgrave, Coventry, I have a premier class hotel with 48 bedrooms that is directly butts up against the hedge, a matter of a few meters away from where that restaurant trades. So I do have a proven track record in being able to fulfill your expectations of me. The current circumstances for, I appreciate I've only been trading in Hereford for a year, but it's really the current circumstances and trying to operate the restaurant over a longer period of hours to support it that has precipitated my submitting this application now. When I met with, or since meeting with PC Lee and Sergeant Ball, I have submitted an additional antisocial behaviour plan, a management plan, in ways in which we can do more to ensure that this doesn't become problematic. But one of the things I omitted from the submission was that in all of my 24 restaurants, the managers wear body-worn cameras, which I would be willing to supply at Hereford, which does have a considerable effect on helping with preventing antisocial behaviour in the first instance. In answer to Councillor Tillet's point about the speaker post and the noise, we have put the facility on the speaker post to change it to night mode, which would mean that you can't hear the speaker post, so you can't hear the order transaction being taken in the drive-through lane. So that might help. I discussed with the police about the option to, at 24 hours notice, if the trading became problematic, to put the option in of an SIA guard. So I would be prepared to do that if circumstances showed that my management team weren't weren't managing the situation. But the biggest thing in all of this, I am my own best or worst critic. So if this became a problem to the local neighbourhood, I would stop trading. I wouldn't need anybody else to tell me to do that, because I'm in Hereford for the long term. I want to be a good neighbour. I have submitted a route where we will spend a minimum of half an hour, 3 times a day, picking up all the litter, not just McDonald's litter, but picking up any and all litter on a prescribed route. That could become part of the conditions. Were that acceptable to you? So there are a number of ways I can help mitigate the effect on the people who live locally, and be a good neighbour to them.
Thank you, Sarah. A question from me is around the point that Councillor Tillett made around people using the drive-through facility and then parking relatively close by in residential streets to consume their meals. Now, I can't think of a way that McDonald's can do anything to regulate that. Can you?
That particular point, no. The only thing that we have done in the past, and it does help, is we've improved the amount of notices that we've had around the sites to just act as a check sometimes for people who are on the point of doing something thoughtless, like using their phone or shouting to somebody, or if they were going to park in a local street, just to remember that there are local residents asleep nearby, and that has helped. And in the instance I mentioned at Coventry, obviously, you know, there is a business next door with the Premier Class Hotel, and those customers and repeat customers can decide whether to go there or not based on the fact that it's noisy, and it's not. So, you know, the hotel is still in business and has been for, you know, in perpetuity since I was the franchisee there.
Okay. So on the same kind of theme, do you have any other drive-through facilities in such close proximity to residential dwellings?
Yes. So Coventry would probably be the best example for me to use, because there is no barrier between the building, the pavement, the road, Wigston Road, and the house opposite. So there's no hedge, there's no screening, there's no nothing. So that would probably be where the business is the most exposed. But Evesham, as a similar short distance, the Stafford, my drive-through at Stafford would be similar. My restaurant at Swadlincote, Belmont, that's Belmont Street, not Belmont Road, would be similar. It doesn't trade until late, but is open from the early hours. And, you know, is cheek by jowl with, you know, Victorian terraced houses, cheek by jowl with the Belmont Street that the restaurant sits on. But it's about, you know, it's about management, and my managers are, you know, we generally have a pretty much like the police, a zero tolerance to antisocial behaviours. And the way my business runs would be different to my predecessor, you know.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Members, any questions for Sarah? Councillor Fagan.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just wondering, is there a way for local residents to actually sort of participate in the the management, or feed into, not participate, but feed into how you manage the site? I mean, is there like a sort of neighbours forum or something like that? And do you operate anything like that on any of your other sites?
Yes, Councillor Fagan, sorry, I omitted that when I was giving my overview. What we've set up in other locations, and I haven't got anything in place here, but I did write to 50 of the residents here, and they had the opportunity to meet with me face to face, and nobody took up that option to do that. But then sometimes people, don't want that face to face contact when there are other options through representation, through the council or through social media. So, but what we've done in the past is we've set up and it depends on how sensitive it is, either a monthly or a quarterly option to meet. So pretty much like a surgery, where any issues locally with litter or noise, or when we've had refurbishment work going on and there's been a bit of a spike in contractor noise, the residents have an option to come and sit and chat over a coffee, and we look at how we address that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, members? Okay. Thank you for that, Sarah. Very useful. The subcommittee will now adjourn to discuss the application, and I think we'll come back in 40 minutes. So that makes it just before 1300 hours. If you wish to rejoin the meeting, could you please come back 5 minutes before the before 1300, and just in case there are any technical issues.
Chairman, point of order, do you not mean 1200?
1200.
Oh, I've gone on to British Greenwich Mean Time. Sorry, no, I haven't. No. Thank you. I do. Yes, 1200 hours. Thank you very much. Alice.
Same point, Chair. I do like a cup of coffee, but I perhaps don't need till 1 o'clock.
Oh, no, perhaps an hour and 40 minutes is a little excessive. I will admit that. Could I? Welcome back to this licensing subcommittee. And before I read out the decision of the subcommittee, could subcommittee members verbally confirm that you are able to hear me, and I will confirm in response that I can hear you. Where practicable, please also have your video switched on so that you can be seen by other members in attendance and the public watching on the YouTube feed. Councillor Polly Andrews.
Yes, Chairman, I can both hear and see you.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Paul Andrews.
Good afternoon, Chair. I can hear and see you.
Councillor Paul Andrews.
Hello, Chair. Yeah, good afternoon. Yes, I can hear and see you. I think he's frozen, everybody.
Yeah, it looks like it.
I think, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I think I had an issue at my end with internet connection. Can you hear me?
We can hear and see you, Chair.
Right, I'll start again. Councillor Polly Andrews, can you hear and see me?
Yes, Chairman, I can both hear and see you.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Andrews, can you hear and see me?
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair. Yes, I can hear and see you.
Thank you very much. And are you? Councillor Tony Fagan.
Yes, Chair, I can hear and see you.
And are you, Councillor Fagan? Thank you very much. And can I now go to officers and people in attendance? Eleanor Awali Bahari.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear you.
Emma Bowell.
Thank you, Chair. I can hear and see you.
Caroline Marshall.
Yes, Chair, I can see and hear you.
Alice McAlpine.
Yes, Chair, I can hear and see you.
Thank you. PC Chris Lee.
Yes, Chair, I can hear and see you.
And are you? Thank you, PC Lee. Police Sergeant Dan Ball.
Yes, hello, Chair, I can see and hear you, yes.
Thank you very much, Sergeant Ball. Councillor Kevin Tillett.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can see and hear you.
Sarah McLean. Sarah, can you hear and see us?
Yes, Chair, I can hear and see you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Jen Priest from our Democratic.
Yes, Chair, I can hear and see you.
Okay, thank you for your patience. The committee has deliberated and the judgment goes as follows. We have heard from the licensing authority, West Mercia Police, public representations, including written representations from members of the public and the applicant. We note that there has been an offer to reduce the opening hours to 0200 from those proposed. However, the committee does not feel that these will make much difference. The licensing objectives to the prevention of crime and disorder and prevention of public nuisance will not be upheld. Therefore, the application is refused. That brings us to the end of that application. We have two other applications on our agenda this morning. First of all, the application to vary a premises license in respect of the Brew-In By Street, Ledbury. That application has been withdrawn as all parties have agreed conditions. The third application, which is the application to grant a premises license in respect of the Bromyard service station, One the Bypass Bromyard, due to a technical issue, will now be heard on the 27th of October. Thank you very much for your attendance. Can I check with Democratic Service